When people talk about civil disobedience, they usually think it's something done by people on the left. The draft resistors of the anti-Vietnam War movement, Martin Luther King and the civil rights protests, the Black Panthers demanding black power. More recently, the silly people of Occupy Wall Street. But the right embraces civil disobedience, too, when they agree with the cause. Conservatives were big supporters of Cliven Bundy when the rancher and his friends held their guns and said the feds can't take Bundy's cattle.
Bundy supporters forced federal authorities to back down from seizing his cattle.
Who is the trespasser? Is it Cliven Bundy or is it the United States?
Historian Thaddeus Russell says this kind of American civil disobedience began with the Boston Tea Party, and today we like it that the colonists threw the tea into Boston Harbor. Is there a rule when the civil disobedience is good or bad?
Not to me. I mean, I want to preserve that right to disobey when I don't vote for a law that oversees me, and I want to be able to disobey when people I haven't voted for rule over me.
We need laws.
Sure, but in the case of the Boston Tea Party, again, that was a king imposing a decree forcing people to be taxed without their having the right to representation. So, I mean, you see that again and again over the last 250 years in American history on the right and the left.
The left and right don't do it the same way.
They do it for different ends, but with the same means. And so, again, I think it's very important to preserve those means. Madison in Federalist 10 talked about the tyranny of the majority. There will always be a minority, and sometimes a majority, that is actually oppressed. In Baltimore, for instance, most of the people in the streets didn't vote for their government.
Here's an example of conservative civil disobedience. Connecticut passed a law that ordered people who own military-style rifles to register their guns.
Tens of thousands of gun owners are refusing to register their firearms.
That means Connecticut now has hundreds of thousands, potentially, of brand new criminals because not registering is a felony.
And what's happened after this? Nothing. They haven't cracked down on them.
What is important, essential in civil disobedience is that it be a mass movement. It's effective when there are a lot of people doing it. And so here's a great example that no one ever talks about. People who drank during Prohibition. Most Americans drank during Prohibition. That was an act of civil disobedience. It was also a mass movement, and it, of course, was quite effective.
In a way, it's easier for the gun owners to get away with it because by not registering, the state, in most cases, doesn't know who they are.
Right. I mean,
the drinkers they might catch.
Yeah, well, most of the drinking was done in secret, in private.
So here's a recent headline. Christian leaders, including Mike Huckabee, threaten civil disobedience if the Supreme Court legalizes gay marriage. I'm not sure how they can do that.
I don't know. I mean, but the right wing does have, there's a long forgotten history of right-wing civil disobedience. Abortion protesters have done this for many, many years, violating all sorts of laws to protest abortion and the right to choose. There was a massive tax revolt in the 1930s, very much a right-wing issue that's never talked about. You'd never see it in history textbooks. 30,000 people in the city of Chicago in the early 1930s refused to pay their taxes for years, and it was almost successful.
People don't like to talk about it because it threatens them. It's disorder. People like law and order.
Well, a little disorder's good for the republic. I think someone said that.